In the final part of this 3-part series on how to create an Elgato setup, we will have a little bit of a streaming battle between... Wait, where are my products? Roll the intro and we'll try again. On this YouTube channel, I've made a lot of videos including these. These are Logitech products, consisting of a Blue Yeti Mic X, a Logitech C922 Pro Stream webcam, and the Logitech Glow by Logitech for creators. But I also made a video including these. These are Elgato products, consisting of a Wave 3 microphone, the Elgato Facecam webcam, and of course the Keylight Air. So in this video, we will have a bit of a streaming battle between the Elgato setup and the Logitech setup. Enjoy! And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to record 4 webinars in total. 2 with the Logitech setup and 2 with the Elgato setup. And the first webinars that I'm going to record will be, of course, one with the Logitech and one with the Elgato, but without any effects and without the lights. And that is, of course, because almost every product you see right here on this table right now has a designated software for it to optimize the camera image, the sound, or the lighting equipment. So I won't turn on the lights because you need to see the effect of the light as well, of course. And then I'm going to dive into the softwares, change some settings so it's fully optimized and you have a fully optimized Elgato setup, and once again you have a fully optimized Logitech setup. But once again, the first webinar of each of these 2 setups will be without the lights and without any effects from the software. So first up will be the Logitech setup without any effects and without the lights. So let's dive into the Logitech setup. So right now you are watching the very first webinar of this video, and the first webinar that you are currently watching is the Logitech setup without any effects and without the light glow that is currently sitting on my laptop. So what I did is I just plugged in my Logitech C922 Pro Stream webcam and I plugged in my Blue Yeti X mic, added it to OBS, and that is what you currently hear and see. And of course I have my studio lighting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dive into all of this software and optimize this setup and of course turn on the light glow. So now that you've seen the webinar from the Logitech setup without the light and the effects, now it is time to dive into these softwares and then record another webinar to see what the effects and what the light does to our current Logitech setup. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a new software, which is the Logitech Capture software. Open up the software and then you see right here, no source selected. Then go to the drop-down menu on the left, as it says on my screen. Then click this button right here, and then of course select a C922 Pro Stream webcam. And there you go. So right now we have our Logitech webcam image in the Logitech Capture software. So let's see how we can optimize this webcam image using a Logitech software before I'm going to add it to OBS. And the first thing I see right here is the priority. Well, if I click the eye icon, choose whether to prioritize between the frame rate, which maintains a constant frames per second, of course, or the exposure to maintain the correct level of light. So this is like a sort of automated function on which it prioritizes, like as it says right here, as it prioritizes the smoothness or if it prioritizes the brightness or the exposure from this specific webcam. But for now, I think I'm going to choose frame rate because the exposure isn't a problem because I have great studio lighting, and I'm going to show you the light glow in a little bit. Of course, in this software as well, we can zoom, but please notice that once again, this is a digital zoom, so you will lose some resolution. So for now, I'm just going to keep it to 100. Then autofocus, which is currently on, well, you can turn it off if you want and then change the focus. And if I put my thumb very, very close, you will see that that is in focus. And if I turn it all the way back, you will see that I'm in focus. But for now, I will leave it to autofocus, which is funny because the only time I ever turn on autofocus is for a webcam. I never turn on autofocus, let's say, well, for the main camera over there, for example. So that's a little fun fact about me. All right, and then of course you have the auto white balance. You can turn this off as well, and then you see I immediately get a little bit bluer. And if I change this setting to, let's say, 6500, I'm very yellow. And if I turn it all the way down, once again, I'm blue. I'm blue, da ba dee. All right, I'm sorry. I don't want to get copy striked. No. So I will leave this to auto for now as well, because I just like the way this looks. Then we have image settings, and we have all of these icons as well. So let's change it to see what it does. So that is for the Logi Capture software. And now I'm going to open up another app, which is the Logitech G Hub software for my LitraGlow by Logitech for creators. And here we go in the Logitech G Hub software. And because I've connected all Logitech products, you will see a C92 Pro, a Yeti X of course, and a LitraGlow by Logitech. And the funny thing is I actually see LitraGlow webinar, and that has to do with the fact that I once used the Logitech G Hub software and the LitraGlow for a video about comparing the LitraGlow and comparing the small Let Go light. So I'm going to click on LitraGlow webinar. And as you can see right here, it already added the Logi Capture as my camera. So right now I'm going to turn it on, and there we go. And of course, as you all know, my favorite temperature is 4200K and on 75%. But let's see if we can improve this. And I think I'm going to keep it at 85 for the brightness. So with the LitraGlow turned on, there is only one thing left for us to do, and that is of course to optimize the sound of our Logitech Blue Yeti Mic X. And because it's just a little bit easier for me, I'm going to optimize it in OBS. But I do know that Logitech does have a lot of plugins and does, I believe, have some sort of audio software in which you can enhance the sound of this Yeti Mic X, but I just decided to do it in OBS. And the only thing that I changed in OBS, and I will show you, is if I go to filters, is I just changed and added the 3-band equalizer just a little bit. So with that all set up, right now I'm going to start my webinar, record it, and then I'm going to show it to you. So right now you are watching the second webinar from the Logitech Setup, all optimized. So as I told you, I've added my webcam in the Logi Capture software and changed a lot of settings to optimize my webcam image. After that, I opened my Logitech G Hub software to turn on the LitraGlow and to change the color temperature and the brightness just a little bit. And then I have added my Blue Yeti X mic, and I changed just a little bit in the 3-band equalizer, which is what you hear right now. So this is the Logitech Setup, all optimized for your webinars. And now it is time to move on to the Elgato setup. So right now I have connected everything from the Elgato setup to my laptop. And of course, the first thing I'm going to record is the webinar without any effects and without the key light turned on. So I'm just going to use the webcam, and I'm just going to use the microphone in my webinar. And that webinar you will see in 3, 2, 1. Yes, and here you have it, the Elgato webinar without the key light air and without any audio or video effects. So this is just the face cam, and this is just the Wave 3. Of course, you need to, like I said in the previous part, you need to connect the Wave 3 to the Wavelink software before you can set it up in OBS, and you need to add the Elgato face cam to the Camera Hub app in order for it to work. So that is something that is probably handy to know. And this was the webinar from the Elgato setup, once again, without the lights and without any effects. So now I'm going to dive into the designated softwares, show you how I do it, and then open up another webinar, which is fully optimized. But this was the webinar without the effects. Now it's time to dive into the designated softwares of this Elgato setup, but because I already showed you the Wavelink software and the Camera Hub app in the previous part, I'm just going to do a time lapse on how I optimize my webcam image and how I optimize my Wave 3 microphone. Yes, and I'm sorry I had to cut that time lapse, but I got carried away and I got distracted, so I'm sorry. And I thought, hey, does this plugin work with that, and does that software work with that, and how does that work with this Elgato things? So I'm very sorry that I had to cut the time lapse, but I am going to show you what I did. But you might see it already on the bottom right, and that is the final software that we haven't talked about, and that is the control center for the key light air. Although I did talk about it, I believe, twice in other videos, but I'm just going to show it and you probably already know what's up. So once you have opened up your control center, just click on off, and there you go. You can see it in the light. So right now the light is very, very white and on 100% brightness. So let's change that. All right, let's put it to 60 because I won't get carried away again twice in a video. So right now I have optimized everything. I turned on my key light air. I changed some settings in the control center. I also changed the settings in the Elgato camera hub app for the face cam. And I also, just with the Blue Yeti mic, I also changed the settings from the Elgato Wave 3. And the only thing that I did is just add a 3-band equalizer once again with these settings. And for the camera hub app, if you really want to know what I did, I changed the contrast just a little bit of saturation added, the sharpness on +2, the temperature on 4500, so this light or the studio lighting that I used is still a pretty warm light if you ask me. And there you go. So right now I have connected everything to my OBS. I showed you the settings. The key light is on, microphone is working, so now it is time once again to start a webinar, which you will see in 3, 2, 1. So right now you are watching the final webinar of this battle between the Logitech Setup and the Elgato Setup. The fourth and the last, and once again this is with the Elgato Setup, with the lights turned on, with the webcam and the microphone optimized. And I used of course the camera hub app to optimize my webcam image. And I used the control center to turn on and to change the key light air. And once again I've decided to just use the 3-band equalizer in OBS, but I do know that there are a lot of options that you can do in the Wavelink software. So you can create your own plugins. I believe you can download some plugins as well for microphones in that Wavelink software as well. So you have tons and tons of options. But this is the final webinar, and right now I'm going to go back to the studio for a final verdict. Let's go. So now it's time, of course, to choose a winner. But, and I know this sounds a little bit like a cliche, but I couldn't choose a winner. Because both of these setups are great, and it really depends on what you want and what you need. But in this case I would also add how technical skilled you think you are, and that is because the Logitech Setup is very easy to use. All I did was just plug in 3 USB cables and that's it. And you don't even need the Logitech capture software to optimize the webcam, the C9 II Pro webcam. You can just use OBS for that as well, but the standard image is already great and I've used it many times. And you don't need the G-Hub software because on the back of the Logitech Glow there are also some buttons so you can change the preset. You can turn it a bit warmer or a bit colder, I believe by step 5. And you can also dim it, also you have 5 presets. So once again, if you want a very easy to use setup, just plug and play, and where the cost isn't that high and you don't need any extra software, but you do want a great setup, you could definitely use the Logitech because it's just a great, easy, stable to use setup. And then of course we move on to our Elgato setup. And as you noticed, since I unboxed the Facecam and the Wave 3, I haven't had much experience with these Elgato products before making this video. So I thought it was pretty fun to learn a new software and learn some new cool things and effects that you can apply to this Elgato setup. But if you are not, or you think you are not that technically skilled, I wouldn't recommend using this setup because you really need the Wavelink software to get this microphone to work and to put it in OBS. And Elgato highly recommends that you use the Camera Hub app for the Facecam as well, even though the standard Facecam image is pretty great as well. And just as with the Logitech, you can do almost everything in this setup with OBS as well. But I do think, and if I work with it, this isn't just as easy to use, and this is very easy to use, but you do need some technical knowledge in order to make this setup work, in my opinion. Of course, I do think you do need some or a little bit more of a technically skilled mind or experience to get this setup to really work its full potential, whereas with this setup you don't need much experience, you just need to know how to plug in a USB cable and then you're good to go. So once again, it really depends on what you need, what you want, and how technically skilled you are. So if you want a low cost, easy to use and very great setup that you don't need to change a lot of settings for in order to get it right, choose Logitech, I would recommend. But if you are a little bit more technically skilled and you do like to work with external plugins and all that crazy cool stuff, I would highly recommend the Elgato setup as well. And let's not forget, with the Elgato setup is there are tons of ways that you can apply this setup to your Elgato Stream Deck. And if you don't know what an Elgato Stream Deck is, I made a 2-part series on that subject as well on this YouTube channel. And I think I'm going to leave it at that, and that is my final opinion about these two amazing, great setups. Whew, that was a tough battle. But that's it. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more about webinars, on how to host them, what gear to use and what it is like to work at a tech startup, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click like on this video and hit that notification bell. And let me know, do you prefer Elgato or Logitech? Thank you so much for watching and see you on the next one. Bye!